USC's women's basketball team, ranked 7th in the country, cruised to an 86-64 win at Wisconsin. 15 points for Kiki Irefin, 14 for Juju Watkins. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
They can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary.
On Saturday, February 22nd, you are invited to A Night with the Panthers, a special fundraiser dedicated to supporting Black Panther veterans who now require assistance with essential needs such as medicine, food, and housing. These Black Panther veterans championed human rights, fed the hungry, educated the community, and stood as powerful symbols of resistance and resilience. Despite their incredible sacrifices, loving and serving the people did not come with retirement plans or financial security. So, now it's our time to honor their legacy and ensure that they are cared for with the dignity they deserve. You can help by attending and supporting A Night with the Panthers, Saturday, February 22nd, 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Project 43 Team Post Center, 6841 Crenshaw Boulevard, Los Angeles. For more information, contact Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. That's Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Take me back to LA. Take me back to LA. Take me back to LA. I've laughed and I've cried. I've lived and I've died. Stole from, gambled and cheated. Cut corners outside. I've tried and I failed. Stood tall when they run. I fought a cold war in the dead of the hot sun. Now take me back to LA. Where the weather is good. Take me back to LA. Don't wanna give the road a second look. And I remember
KBLA Talk 1580. Yeah, we back in LA. We never left, actually, but we broadcast from here to all over the world and all over the country, and all are welcome. Got a lot to talk about right here, right now. Joining me in studio, the city attorney for Los Angeles. She's the 40th LA city attorney. She was elected in 2022, sworn in at the end of the year. She is the city's general counsel, legal advisor to the mayor, city council, and to hundreds of boards, departments, officers, and entities that make up the city of LA. Hydee Feldstein Soto, welcome back.
Good morning. Thank you for having me
Good morning.
back.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like last time you were here, we were talking about human trafficking and your task force, the work that you've done along those lines with a number of others, including U.S. attorneys and our Attorney
new DA.
General.
And
Yeah.
our new DA is very active at this point in human trafficking as well, against minors. And I'm not focused on sex workers like I told you last time. We are proud of the fact that what we're doing is we're rescuing the minor kids and arresting a lot of Johns and a lot of apex predators.
Yeah. And that was an important conversation. We won't go into the conversation about my thoughts about the new DA. I'm sure we differ on that. I was very concerned that the first thing he was going after was trespassing. So we're going to just arrest all the homeless people. But that, that's another show for another day. Perhaps he'll come in and talk to me about that himself.
I think that would be the best idea.
Yeah. We said today we would focus on price gouging.
Yes.
The Washington Post had an article, 20% across the board rent increases since the fires in areas impacted by that disaster. We've heard the city council making some moves, negotiating and talking about what they can do to protect renters. And of course, homeowners who are renting or even trying to buy another place are all subject. And this is something that seems to be sweeping across every economic bracket.
It does. I will tell you that Altadena is outside my technical jurisdiction.
Yes.
But we are taking calls. We are investigating. We're doing everything we can to help countywide. The governor declared a state of emergency for LA County and Ventura County on January 7th or 8th, literally the day of the wildfires. That automatically triggered Penal Code Section 396. Without speaking legal jargon.
Good old Penal Code 396.
What that says is you can't increase prices by more than 10% automatically. There doesn't have to be any notice. It's just a provision of the law. And it is to protect people who are in an emergency situation and desperate from being overcharged. So we have focused primarily on housing, but for everybody out there, it applies to all essential services. We have a complaint in our office about a vet bill that kind of doubled.
So even construction and stuff like that? Not really. Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah,
I'm talking about food, healthcare.
Okay.
Things that consumers need to live.
Right. So the LA Times had an article saying that disaster law that prevents a 10% increase is keeping some units off the market because landlords want to charge more, so their solution is just don't rent it out at all.
Well, let's step back. The law isn't just you can't increase prices. There's some nuances to it. And the governor reissued a new executive order day before yesterday, I believe. And this week's executive order specifically says that in certain zip codes, and it's basically wealthy neighborhoods like Palisades, Bel Air, Beverly Hills. I mean, you'd have to look at the zip codes. Pasadena, I think, is covered. That if you have a single-family home with 4 bedrooms or more, so people who in effect have a partial pad in LA, and you've never rented it before, okay, then you're exempt from the price gouging laws. Because the price gouging law doesn't just stop you from raising rental property 10%. It also says that if you suddenly put rental property on the market, the rent that you can charge for it is limited to 160% of what HUD allows as market rental.
So basically he's giving them a pass if they're putting a property on the market for the first time.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, and why do we care about that if we're middle class or working class? Because many of us are concerned that folks from the west side, go to Palms and pretty soon prices are impacted in working class neighborhoods as wealthy folks have more resources to snatch up those properties that we might have been in reach for us before.
Well, and competitive bidding is not a defense to price gouging. Okay? It just isn't. I mean, I've had landlords, lawyers say to me, well, my goodness, there were 10 offers. It's not that I raised the price. People kept bidding more. It's not a defense. You cannot charge more than 10% of what you were charging the day before the emergency.
So the person who told me, I'm not going to rat them out, but the person who told me they found a place they liked and offered well above what the landlord was asking because they wanted to beat out the other bids, that's not allowed?
No. And if the landlord accepted that?
And they did.
Okay. That's a crime, and it's a violation of California state law. And it's foolish for the landlord to accept that because the tenant can get back restitution. The amount over 10% is not a legal contract.
So in other words, that tenant could come back even though they actually participated in the crime and say, oh, I need all that back because that was more than I was allowed to be paying according to the law?
Yes. Because what the law imposes the penalty on is the person who receives the excess value. Now, my office can get in there and basically treat the transaction in a way where the restitution goes by way of cypre to a pro bono organization rendering legal services to lower income tenants. I mean, there's lots of different ways that recapture of the excess can be used. We can wind up with an injunction. We can wind up with the penalties for this kind of a violation is $2,500 per violation. And if you want to get creative, for every day that the landlord is renting that property above the amount permitted,
Every day could be a new violation. Well,
Yes,
I thought you
ma'am.
were going to say every month. But how do you even know about these things? I mean, how would you know that? How will you track it, and how will you enforce it? Because it seems very nebulous in a way.
Well, first of all, let me give a shout out to the tenants groups because they're doing a great job of making referrals over to our office.
The tenants' rights organization.
Yes. The case that we just filed is a 17-200 action against a global rental company called Blue Ground. That's a case that was referred to us by a tenants' rights organization. And they send us a package. They send us some information. We have investigators. We look at it. We try to put it together. Sometimes we refer it to our housing department or building and safety, who also have inspectors and investigators. But the city is responding. My office has over 900 complaints under investigation. Now, understand, we're in tight budget.
900 specifically housing gouging related
Yes.
cases. Wow.
Yes. And that's, the fires were a month ago.
Right. You said you were about to say we're in tight budget, so.
We're in really tight budget times, and I don't have positions authorized. I just sent over a request to City Council for some additional help to focus specifically on the price gouging. Council's doing a great job at pushing through some ordinances. So, for example, housing today is not covered under the city's price gouging law. It's only the state's. So the cases I brought are under the state penal code, but council is working on adding housing to the city's price gouging law as well. And I've asked for some additional resources because we've cobbled together a task force to address this. And it's not like I had lawyers or paralegals or investigators sitting around with nothing to do.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, why do we need the city to match the state on this? What difference does that make?
I have more flexibility in enforcing the municipal code than I do the state penal code. So what my office is doing in response to the crisis is on multiple fronts. We've been helping with legislation both in the city and in the state. We've been bringing public rights actions like this, litigation and criminal enforcement proceedings against people who don't obey the law. And by the way, that hurts everybody. You're right. It goes down. It trickles down into every community.
Yeah,
in
it
the
tightens
city.
up the housing stock. It makes it. We already had a crisis, and now a whole bunch of people's houses got burnt up.
And they're looking for places to stay.
Right.
And they can't stay in hotels forever. And the reconstruction is going to take a while because the cleanup's going to take a while. And even assuming people come back to reconstruct, and I hope people do. I mean, Altadena and the Palisades both are historic neighborhoods. They're historic communities for LA.
And beautiful communities.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree. 7 of my employees lost their homes. And I think 3 were in Altadena and 4 were in the Palisades.
Well, it's terrible. I mean, I've stopped counting because so many of my friends and colleagues have lost everything. And some of them I didn't even know lived in Altadena or the Palisades. But I believe we will bounce back and we will rebuild, but it seems very daunting because we were already having trouble building enough to help the unhoused.
Maybe I'm a cockeyed optimist. You can always view it as an opportunity to build back better. You can view it, assuming that the federal government comes through with the aid that we need, and we cannot do this alone. I mean, a city cannot print money, but what's going on a national level, I think, is complicating matters for Los Angeles, and so we have to navigate between the raindrops, and because we're going to need billions of aid to rebuild. We have always come back from natural disasters. We've always come back from all kinds of adversity, at least as long as I've lived here. And I've lived here since 1982. So we have to help one another. One of the beautiful things is people helping each other. What
Absolutely.
came out of this was how much the city pulled together, how much neighbors helped neighbors, how much parts of the city that appeared to be unaffected, parts of the county that were unaffected came together to help in Altadena and in the Palisades. It is unfortunate that I think when we got a visit from the new federal administration, They focus so much on the Palisades because there's lots of communities hurt all over Los Angeles, and we need to address everybody's needs.
Yeah, and I think it's so ironic that California coffers, the California taxpayer, and our incredibly productive and creative state have helped pay for everyone's natural disasters to be rebuilt. And now we're facing a scenario where we might not be getting the federal help with the actual money that we spend in taxes to rebuild our own state.
California is a net contributor to the federal pot, and we always have been. We've never taken out more than we've put in by virtue of our income tax, and this may be the first year that we are in dire, dire need. And I really do hope that the country responds to that need.
We're talking with the city attorney, Hydee Feldstein Soto, and when we come forward, I want to find out, what do you do if you are feeling that you're being gouged? What can you do? What's the individual consumer renter's recourse? That's next on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now.
800-550-9651.
Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call
800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Well, good morning, kiddo. I love that you're home from college. I've missed you.
Still taking your nature-made vitamins?
Every day. A multivitamin and a probiotic. You better be taking yours.
Still looking out for me, Mom.
I'll never stop.
Made to care for you every day. Nature Made, the #1 pharmacist-recommended vitamin and supplement brand. Find us in the vitamin aisle, based on a survey of pharmacists who recommend branded vitamins and supplements.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
All right, we are talking with the LA City Attorney, Hydee Feldstein Soto. She wanted to come in here and talk about price gouging. You know, there's always a lot going on in our city, and we are obviously trying to we haven't even started rebuilding. Really, we're right now at the phase of assessing the damage.
Cleanup, debris removal, making the areas safe. The Army Corps of Engineers, I think, has started work in Altadena last week, and I think they're working in the Palisades this week as well.
I heard the new DA say that they actually reporting that they're prosecuting people for trespassing And I think some of those folks are people trying to go get a look at their own homes.
I have no jurisdiction in Altadena.
Right.
Okay, so I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I have filed a handful, 5 or 6 criminal cases for violation of the curfew laws, for entering an evacuation zone where you weren't permitted to be. And there's a reason for that. There was some looting going on. We have home video, ring video of looting. And the cases that I brought, 2 middle-aged men who did not live anywhere in the area, who were out on the street going house to house at 4:30 in the morning.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, but of course you saw the video that went viral of a black family trying to help their auntie move, and
I did.
They were accused of being looters.
I did.
Yeah.
I did not bring that case, but
does that inform the way that you move?
Yes. I mean, look, when we bring a criminal case, it's serious. Even though it's a misdemeanor, you're talking about somebody's liberty.
Right.
I like to say I ran for office. I knew I was going to get attacked. There were 3 things I did not agree to put on the line: my license, my liberty, and my life. So I take the criminal justice system quite seriously. I do think that there needs to be consequences for repeat behavior, for particularly violent behavior. I have focused, I think you know this, my criminal branch, on sex offenses against minors, okay, on DUI and DUID, on domestic violence. Those are really the 3 major misdemeanors that we bring. We don't bring many trespassing cases, but oftentimes danger, okay, residential burglary starts with a trespassing case. So I don't know enough about that particular case or how the DA chose to charge it.
I wasn't talking about actually the details of it, because I know it's not your case, but more, for Black America, Black LA, feeling very much under attack at this moment. More of the symbolism and the big picture issues that particular video brought forward.
Not just the video. I don't think that the symbolism is limited to a video or a charge.
Yeah.
Black America is under attack, and I'm here to protect all of our residents.
And this is a little sidebar, but since you said that, I've seen so many mayors and city attorneys and school boards and other elected officials, not just here in LA, but across the country, saying we will do everything possible to protect our immigrant students and families. I haven't heard anyone saying we're going to do everything possible to protect our Black residents. And
I'm going to do everything possible to protect our Black residents.
Thank you.
I've said it all along, okay? When people talk, I
haven't heard any press conferences about that or any intentionality. And I'm not just talking about you. I'm talking about Democrats, progressives, Republicans, nationwide.
Look, when people talked about the rise in hate crimes, and there was an enormous rise in hate crimes across the board, but I'm in my interview, I mean, what I said was it's all very good, and there's been a huge rise in anti-Semitism and crimes against Jews. There's been a huge rise against Asian American hatred. But nobody focuses on the fact that hate crimes still are disproportionately targeted. A majority of all hate crimes across the board are directed against Black Americans. It's African American communities who suffer the most from the hate crimes, and that's just a constant. And so when we discuss these issues, we need to be sure not to forget that at its root, at the end of the day, we're not just talking about a rise here or a rise there, but we are talking about protecting everyone who suffers from the harm.
Right.
I will tell you, I do want to address one thing. You had asked me what someone can do if they suspect price gouging.
That's where we're going. Yeah. What do we do as a tenant, as a potential renter?
Kudos to Mayor Karen Bass. She has set up a special dedicated approach on 311. So the best thing to do really is to call 311 or go to the website, which is lacity.gov/myla311. And again, that's lacity.gov/myla311.
Or get the app. I have the 311 app. I love it.
We are dedicating resources to this, much like we did to graffiti removal. You remember for a while there was a dedication in 311 to stamping out graffiti to prevent the crossover tagging on gang wars. We're now doing it for price gouging. So please call the number. It will get referred to the right place. It doesn't matter where you live. If it's in Pasadena, it'll probably get referred to Michelle Banyeres, who is the city attorney and the prosecutor for Pasadena. If it's in LA, it'll get referred to me. But we are trying to approach this on a coordinated regional basis so that we have the same consistent approach. What my office did initially, much like we did with copper wire theft, was we sent out cease and desist letters. So we get a referral from 311. The first thing we do is we send a letter to the price gouger and say, stop. That's really all we want. When you say, what are we doing? We're trying to get compliance. We're not really trying to get penalties. We're trying to get deterrence and compliance and let people know that if they violate the law, we're going to be there to hold them accountable. And ultimately, that's what's to everybody's benefit. So please report it. Report it to 311. You may not ever hear about a case because we may say, we're sending a letter and send it to the landlord or the price gouger. And they say, okay, I give up. I'll comply.
Does that happen?
And that's what we want. Yeah, of course it has.
Yeah.
Of course it has. Who wants to be criminally charged? Who wants to be sued for an injunction and penalties if they're caught?
Yeah. But in some cases, we only have a minute here till news, traffic, and sports. We'll continue on the other side. But in some cases, you're taking legal action. So in some cases, they don't comply, apparently, with that cease and desist.
Correct. And we need to take legal action, and we need to hold people accountable so that others don't continue to engage in the bad behavior and think they can get away with it.
So when that happens, say you send a cease and desist to a corporate landlord that's gouging, and what do? Just ignore you?
Yes. A lot of the time they do. And if you look at the complaint against Blue Ground, we have more than 10 cases of price gouging. They raised prices across the board all over LA by an average of 20% in the week after the fires. So that's why we brought this action. It's widespread, it's repeated, it's knowing, it is a corporate landlord, and it's time to put a stop to it.
We're talking with the city attorney for the city of Los Angeles. If you've got a question or comment, 800-920-1580, or jump in the YouTube chat where they are every day at KBLA 1580. Make a comment, say a thing. I'm watching, I'm reading. And we've got news, traffic, and sports, then more. I'm Dominique DiPrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu supports President Trump's plan for the U.S. to take over Gaza and relocate its 2 million Palestinians. Netanyahu called it the first good idea he's heard. Trump aims to clear the destruction and redevelop the region. New York City residents face a treacherous morning commute due to a winter storm bringing snow, ice, and rain. Early morning snow will turn to sleet and freezing rain, making driving very difficult. Pennsylvania authorities are searching for those who stole 100,000 organic eggs worth over $40,000 from a truck in Greencastle over the weekend. The theft occurred late Saturday night. And Amazon will hold an event later this month in New York City where it's expected to give an update on its Alexa digital assistant. The company has been working to come out with a new version of the assistant with more advanced artificial intelligence capabilities. I'm Bree Wood on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
If you were self-employed or a 1099 contractor and missed work because you had COVID or cared for an immediate family member with COVID in 2021, you may qualify for up to $32,000 for the Sick and Family Leave Credit. Visit taxcreditnow.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers made a trade folks have been expecting after sending Anthony Davis to Dallas. Needing a quality big man in the middle to replace AD, the Lakers traded for Charlotte Hornets center Mark Williams, a 7-footer in his 3rd season out of Duke. Williams is averaging 15.6 points and 9.8 rebounds. To get Williams, the Lakers gave Charlotte first-round pick Dalton Knecht, Cam Reddish, and a couple of future draft picks. It was tough for the Lakers to let Knecht go. Among NBA rookies, Knecht ranks 5th in scoring and 2nd in three-pointers. The UCLA women's basketball team set a school record with 22 straight wins. The Bruins beat Ohio State 65-52, 19 points and 14 rebounds for Lauren Betts. The number one Bruins are 22-0, 10-0 in the Big Ten Conference. USC's women's basketball team, ranked 7th in the country, cruised to an 86-64 win at Wisconsin. 15 points for Kiki Irefin, 14 for Juju Watkins. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
I have a dream today.
They said it couldn't be done. They said we wouldn't make it. But history had other plans. This February, KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates the dreamers, the doers, and the breakthrough makers of Black History Month. Your station, your stories. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you, neighbor to neighbor, bringing you resources and what you need to know. For information on fire recovery resources, recovery hubs, and available services, call 211 for the City of Los Angeles and 311 countywide. Aid distribution locations, repopulation updates, and safety rules are constantly changing. Visit the LA City and LA County websites for the latest. If you'd like to sign up for the county's free debris removal, fill out a right of entry form, or get a list of disaster recovery centers that are still active, please visit recovery.lacounty.gov or call the debris hotline at 844-347-3332. If you're vulnerable to mudslides with rain in the forecast, free sandbags are being offered. Go to lacounty.pw/sandbags to find out where to get them. Businesses who have lost their facilities due to the fires can use a regional online source to get free or discounted locations. Whether you're interested in donating or finding space, you can visit the business-to-business Space Share portal at spaceshare.lacounty.gov. Additional LA County small business support and programs can be found at opportunity.lacounty.gov. Praying, advocating, and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you a recent college graduate with a dream of getting a high-paying job in sales? A job where you can grow a lucrative career in multi-platform audio, digital, podcast, social media, and local events, along with world-class training and career growth opportunities. KBLA Talk 1580, located in historic Leimert Park, is currently hiring entry-level account executives for outside sales. Join a team featuring radio hosts Tavis Smiley, Dr. Cornell West, Jesse Jackson Jr., D.L. Hughley, Dr. Nee Cordelai Corte, Zoe Williams, and our very own Dominique DiPrima. For more information on attending our upcoming career fair, contact SMB at KBLA1580.com today. We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
LA's City Attorney Hydee Feldstein Soto is with me in the studio. And we're talking about price gouging. She is on a mission about that. And, of course, that's in relation to the fires, but it's also impacted by the pressure on housing from houselessness, which adds to the cycle of gentrification, which adds to a cycle of the pushing out of black people and others. But, you know, this is a black station from Los Angeles.
People are being pushed out of our city further and further away.
Yep.
And yet, there's also an effort in the region to concentrate the poorest folks in the city. So there's proposals to put safe injection sites in our city. We have concentrations in Skid Row and elsewhere whereas the rest of the county literally, I mean, I think the video went viral of the city of Burbank dropping off an unhoused individual in front of Councilmember Krikorian's district office last year. Los Angeles,
and you have other cities refusing and taking action. Even some members of the city council who you are an advisor to, who are refusing to put anything in their districts as far as building permanent supportive housing or shelters.
I don't know that that's fair.
Okay. Well, that's how it looks from over here. It looks like put everything in South LA. I've never seen so many unhoused white persons in South LA. I've been here 25 years.
There is a settlement agreement under the Alliance litigation that's been paused largely for a while to deal with the fires. So our obligations came to pause on an emergency declaration, but it does allocate beds and shelter and housing by district. So every council district has an obligation under that settlement to build housing where they are. I don't know which council district you're talking about, but I'm happy. I think we have a list of what's been built under the Alliance settlement, and I think every district has contributed something.
I needed to look at that list because what I see consistently is that projects like the Venice Dell project continue to be blocked, and projects in places like Koreatown continue to be blocked. And I've even heard the mayor speak on the fact that everybody seems to think that all homeless people should live in South LA.
Venice Dell is currently the subject of litigation, but you brought it up. Let's be very clear. And I stand behind this. It's my legal opinion that that project, as configured, did not comply with the coastal access requirements of the Coastal Act. If you look at it, what they had was they didn't have beach parking except in the middle of a donut. And people couldn't get to their cars from the beach by walking. You had to have Department of Transportation staffing that hydraulic parking lot 24/7. It added cost of about $1.5 million. And by the way, the last budget that we got for that project had ballooned from $88 million to $138 million. There was no funding for it. There was no financing. And it was once again falling to the city to try to come up with a way on how to build $1 million a unit units for affordable housing being financed and handled by someone else. So if the city has $100 million or $20 million or $40 million to put into affordable housing, there are projects being opened. There's more reasonable projects, and my understanding is that there will be affordable housing built in that area of Venice, either on the lot that was the Venice Dell lot, or because the parking replacement requirements are so high, on the lot that is literally half a block over.
Well, we'll continue that conversation on another day because there's a whole lot of zoning and other questions that I would want to ask about, what we're doing about houselessness and how we can make sure it's fair, that every neighborhood doesn't use tricky measures to make sure they're designated single family and only South LA sees this building boom. But I'm not really quite sure, how all of that is impacted by these fires, right? And I know that your mission is to stop price gouging, but it seems like there's an intersection point as far as the ability to build for the lowest income and the unhoused.
We need to build housing at every income level, okay, especially now. With so many people at a much higher price point being unhoused. The mayor has been very forward-looking in terms of her executive orders to address the unhoused crisis and to address rebuilding quickly and in a streamlined way. I believe that the city had greenlit something like 18,000 units, affordable units, under the mayor's executive order before the fires. Yet only 1,200 had broken ground. And a lot of that has to do with the times that we're living in, with the cost of materials, and with the cost of building housing. And I've never seen so many entitled parcels that have all their rights, go on for sale without actually building the housing that was approved. So it's a multi-layered, complicated question. Many of the building trades, the unions, have been working very hard to find a way to build that housing more affordably. I know the carpenters have created a prefab housing project that has worked well. I know the roofers have been pretty active. So everybody was pulling together. It's the first time we had seen an actual drop in street homelessness, and then the fires hit.
So when you talk about this idea of some accountability, some kind of accountability, but also protections, right, for renters in this environment that we're in right now. I know the city council, you're their legal advisor, and there's been a lot of talk about adding additional protections for renters.
Yes.
And I have stated an unpopular opinion that there are a lot of mom and pop landlords in South LA in particular who rely on that one little apartment from their duplex or the little house that they own in addition to the one they live in for their retirement. So are we looking at carve-outs for those? I know in the city of Newark, where my brother is mayor, they've done some disincentives for some of these big blue ground type characters to buy and some incentives for mom and pops to buy. But I'm also talking about retaining them once we get them.
Full disclosure, it's not just in South LA. You're looking at a woman who is one of those small mom and pop landlords. I live in the bottom half of a duplex and I rent the upstairs unit. So what I have done since the fires, and you haven't seen me in a lot of the policy press conferences because I'm just the lawyer. I mean, there's so much I can do. And so, yes, the first thing I had to do was to assess what the city's legal rights, obligations, and potential liabilities may be. And that's where I was focused in the first couple of weeks. I then expanded to what can my office do to help, both locally with the price gouging and the curfew enforcement, and at new ordinances that City Council has asked us to draft, but also at the state level. So, for example, a lot of the property that was destroyed in the fires was rental property. And one of the bills that I've taken up is a request for an exception under Costa-Hawkins to make sure that if it gets rebuilt, when it gets rebuilt as rental properties, the rent control, the rent stabilization rules will apply to that replacement property, even if it's constructed after 1978. I don't know that the bill will pass, but I've taken up that bill. A much more important bill to me that I think is necessary to stop the speculation in the current environment is I think it's time to bring residential housing into the state antitrust laws. If you think about it, right, housing, especially along the coast of the United States when you're talking about large capital, has been traded on the international markets like pork bellies. Okay,
right.
It's a diversification of
It's a commodity rather than a utility or a right, which is problematic in itself.
Or even a home.
Right.
Because so many of us are being forced into rental housing. So many of us are, instead of working to live, living to work. And everything we make is going out the door in necessities, in rent, in healthcare, in food. We have to be able to regulate the predatory behavior that accompanies the trading of our housing on the markets as if it were just another asset class for global wealth.
So what would that mean, putting it into antitrust?
We have something called the Cartwright Act. And the Cartwright Act prohibits not only the unfair business practices that other parts of our laws do, whether it's price gouging or it's bid rigging, bad behavior. It also prevents monopolization so that you can't have a speculator come in and buy, and I have in my antitrust bill, I think 1% or 3% of the housing in a census tract or in a zip code. I'm indifferent as to how you define the geographic market, but it really is a situation where what you're trying to prevent is you're trying to prevent the monopoly power of capital, where human beings are just either the fodder that creates the value or the asset class. And so I'm taking something up. I think the time is now. I think it's really important that residential housing be treated like the commodity that it is, and that I and other prosecutors like me are in a position to enforce the state antitrust laws to prevent predatory or bad behavior.
Yep. Well, we certainly have seen that on steroids in the state of California. We're talking with the city attorney, Hydee Feldstein Soto, and we're going to continue this conversation about price gouging, what we can do about it at this perilous moment in our history on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
This Black History Month, AARP celebrates everyday excellence. The folks who show up, step into their roles, and make a difference in their community and their career. The ones whose stories often go untold, but whose impact is felt in every corner of our society. At AARP, we support everyday excellence with resources for staying competitive in the workforce. Find career resources to support you every day at aarp.org/work.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Kadeen and Deval Ellis for P&G Good Every Day.
Babe, guess what? We can save big on all our favorite P&G brands like Tide, Cascade, and Febreze. Plus, support great causes every day.
Wait, hold up. You telling me we can save money and feel good about it? How?
Well, remember how Granny and Big Mama used to save money by cutting those coupons out of Sunday Vapors? Now we just go to pggoodeveryday.com, sign up for P&G's free rewards program, and get exclusive coupons.
Okay, so we can get VIP status and save money.
Exactly. We stock up on the P&G products so you, the boys, and I are good every day, just like our folks did for us.
Well, you better go visit pggoodeveryday.com right now, because you got to go buy some detergent and toothpaste and toilet paper.
Me?
Yeah, you. And with all that extra cash, I got to go buy these new sneakers.
It's okay, funny man. You got jokes. Boy, focus on these savings first.
Visit pggoodeveryday.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at WalkGoodLA. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Okay, well, we knew it was going to be a busy year with a new administration, and that was before these infernos that, charged by the climate emergency and the Santa Ana winds created massive
Let me just
disasters.
say, I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Did you see the video that went viral on the fire tornadoes?
Yeah.
I had never seen anything like that in my life. And the fact is, when you've got 100-mile-an-hour winds and you've got them driving embers through walls, leaping freeways, I don't know what anybody could have done. The helicopters couldn't fly. You couldn't drop water. And without air support, the fires took off. And to me, it looked like a vision of Hades. I just never seen anything like it.
Yeah, and I heard that from a lot of very seasoned firefighters and fire executives. It was just, and we may see more of it because we are in a climate emergency. But right now, we're responding to where we are right now. I don't know. You talk about price gouging, and I know your purview is the city, but what about insurance companies? What about, the response that they're meant to have in dealing with homeowners or renters?
Yeah. Most of the companies where I've spoken to the homeowner have been very good, in the sense that you can't have a company paying more than its policy limits.
Right.
So where they have insured, they are working with the folks who were there. But, just to give you some of the tragedies, because it's really hard. Many folks were underinsured. They've got a multi-generational home.
Yeah, or uninsured, right, because you don't have to have insurance if you own the property outright.
Correct.
Yeah. I've talked with some of those folks. When you talk about, the speculators who come in and they want to buy up land because homeowners are desperate and offering them, lowballing them because people don't have insurance or they don't know what to do next. Is there any kind of enforcement around that?
Well, that's why I want to bring it within the antitrust laws, because that would be the best tool. Offering somebody a price for their home is not per se illegal.
Right.
One of the avenues that I've suggested, particularly to some folks in Altadena, is forming a community land trust, such as the ones that have been done relatively successfully in Lamert Park and in Laurel Canyon. If the community can band together to help each other through it so that they're not taking quick buyout cash offers, you'll have a better chance than having individuals who are approached by speculators one-off when they desperately need the cash. They need a place to live. They need food. Some folks are seniors. The people who are in their 80s, it's hard to see the prospect for themselves of rebuilding or taking what assets they have left and putting it back to rebuild a home. It's much easier to think about taking the cash and moving on. And at the end of the day, it's just another situation where profiteers come in and you widen the income disparity if what you're doing is selling these homes at rock bottom prices.
We talked about protecting mom and pop homeowners, but what about renters? There are a lot of reports. I was at a meeting actually, the BLM Center for Black Power, where tenants were talking about how they're being harassed and bullied to leave because landlords know they can get more now.
Well, we do have a tenant anti-harassment ordinance. I have several cases under investigation. Again, they should report it. My office is stretched pretty thin. With each of these ordinances, we were not given additional resources. So it's taking lawyers who were already doing X and asking them to do Y because it becomes a priority.
I've got an idea. They can let them drop prosecutions against protesters and homeless people and focus on tenant rights.
With all due respect, when protesters shut down our freeways for 3 hours during rush hour, that is absolutely a matter of public safety. It is a danger to the people themselves who are standing, walking, sitting on the freeways, and it's a danger to the folks who are driving on the freeways, and it creates life-threatening emergencies. That is behavior that needs to stop.
Protest has never with all due respect, protest has never been convenient. Martin Luther King shut down the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And John Lewis, John Lewis was arrested many, many times for breaking the law. Sometimes getting justice is not convenient.
I understand that. But as a prosecutor, my role in the criminal justice system is to enforce the law. I do it with compassion. I do warnings. I do diversions where appropriate. And there's certain policies and guidelines and types of behavior that really need the deterrent effect, including price gouging and including shutting down freeways.
But city attorneys, city attorneys have discretion over where they place, just as DAs do, about where they place emphasis, right? I mean, what's a priority for you? Because, like you said, you got limited resources and endless ordinances.
Yes, that is an accurate statement, but I try to charge fairly across the city. You can take the example of prostitution. I'm not putting emphasis on consensual commercial sex between adults. That's not my issue. But when you're talking about trafficking individuals, and especially children, that's where I choose to put my focus and my microscope and my lens. And the same thing is going to be true in just about every area. We are putting together forces and we're diverting resources from other prosecutions to deal with price gouging. But what suffers is not just protesters, where you and I may agree or disagree. It's also domestic violence cases. It's also the whole panoply of misdemeanors that plague our city. And we do the best we can. Right now, price gouging seems incredibly important. It seems to be one of the things that I need to pay attention to immediately to stop the behavior and to act as a deterrent. So that's what I'm doing. At some point, that will lighten up and something else will be a priority. We all do the best we can. And in this environment, we have a table at the Disaster Recovery Center for everyone who's been affected. There are 2 disaster recovery centers. I don't have one in Pasadena because it's not my city. But I do have a table at the Disaster Recovery Center at what used to be the West Side Pavilion. And we're trying to help people find housing as well as dealing with price gouging complaints.
When you say you have a table, you're talking about the city attorney's office is set up there. Whenever that disaster relief center is open, people can go and get that information there.
It is staffed 24/7.
Wow.
And I'm sorry, I shouldn't say 24/7. That's wrong. It's staffed when the center is open. So
Right.
8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I've taken bodies from other programs. I've taken bodies from my victims assistance program.
She's talking about workers, not corpses. Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm not talking about corpses.
She's
You're right.
talking about workers.
I'm talking
To
about
cover
living,
that.
breathing
Yeah,
human
yeah,
beings
yeah.
who had a full-time job.
Yeah.
And they're now there to help people because it's a priority to help people who've been affected by
One
this.
thing about this, our city attorney, she's going to come over here, she's going to sit down, and she's going to talk it through. City Attorney Hydee Feldstein Soto, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
And you as well. Tavis Smiley's up next. He's got a fully loaded show for you as usual. And I'm going to encourage you to join us on all social media at KBLA 1580. I'm at DiPrima Radio. Like my mama, the late, great Diane DiPrima used to say, history is now, and we are making it together. Do not forget tomorrow, our reparations conversation, our Freedman Friday. I'm Dominique DiPrima. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu supports President Trump's plan for the U.S. to take over Gaza and relocate its 2 million Palestinians. Netanyahu called it the first good idea he's heard. Trump aims to clear the destruction and redevelop the region. New York City residents face a treacherous morning commute due to a winter storm bringing snow, ice, and rain. Early morning snow will turn to sleet and freezing rain, making driving very difficult. Pennsylvania authorities are searching for those who stole 100,000 organic eggs worth over $40,000 from a truck in Greencastle over the weekend. The theft occurred late Saturday night. And Amazon will hold an event later this month in New York City where it's expected to give an update on its Alexa digital assistant. The company has been working to come out with a new version of the assistant with more advanced artificial intelligence capabilities. I'm Bree Wood on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
If you were self-employed or a 1099 contractor and missed work because you had COVID or cared for an immediate family member with COVID in 2021, you may qualify for up to $32,000 for the Sick and Family Leave Credit. Visit taxcreditnow.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers made a trade folks have been expecting after sending Anthony Davis to Dallas. Needing a quality big man in the middle to replace AD, the Lakers traded for Charlotte Hornets center Mark Williams Williams, a 7-footer in his third season out of Duke. Williams is averaging 15.6 points and 9.8 rebounds. To get Williams, the Lakers gave Charlotte first-round pick Dalton Knecht, Cam Reddish, and a couple of future draft picks. It was tough for the Lakers to let Knecht go. Among NBA rookies, Knecht ranks 5th in scoring and 2nd in three-pointers. The UCLA women's basketball team set a school record with 22 straight wins. The Bruins beat Ohio State 65-52, 19 points and 14 rebounds for Lauren Betts. The number 1 Bruins are 22-0, 10-0 in the Big Ten Conference. USC's women's basketball team, ranked 7th in the country, cruised to an 86-64 win at Wisconsin. 15 points for Kiki Irefin, 14 for Juju Watkins. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
They can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary.
On Saturday, February 22nd, you are invited to A Night with the Panthers, a special fundraiser dedicated to supporting Black Panther veterans who now require assistance with essential needs such as medicine, food, and housing. These Black Panther veterans championed human rights, fed the hungry, educated the community, and stood as powerful symbols of resistance and resilience. Despite their incredible sacrifices, loving and serving the people did not come with retirement